Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Rabbi Ighfirli. My Lord, forgive me for all the sins that I am conscious and unconscious of. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. May God guide us to the direct path. And may God guide this lecture and this moment. For some reason, in this instance, I was drawn to just the imagery. I'm a visual thinker. I have a cinematic experience of my own imagination, and I was wondering, this sentence, are we creating our way back to the Creator? There was a geometry to this vision behind this sentence for me that I felt like it's too important not to say anything. You'll also notice another name for the title I've given is The Great Existential Return. And as a human being capable of communicating and caring even to talk about these ideas, I guess I will be showing you how to dive into it. I'll begin by saying that the phraseology of the great existential return, it is something that I am verifying it through a theological lens. I am a Muslim futurist at heart. I see this world as an existential system. I'm acknowledging it that this reality, there's the major duality is that we are simulated and in the presence of an original point of being. For me, 8 billion human beings on planet Earth is also 8 billion users in an existential system. Now, God is the system admin. The whole point of Islam is that God has no partner. Nothing can equate it. That means all simulated content, world content, cannot equal God. Nothing in the world can be God. Somebody might say, are we all God? No, anything simulated cannot be God. And so it's like we're inside a box, and where people are like, yo man, what's the thing worthy of worship? And the answer is that which is beyond the box. And it's kind of like this original power simulated this world and is maintaining the world, and in some sense the world will return and into the original. So the great existential return, it's applicable to various contexts to reality. Your personally, every human being alive right now, your great existential return is how the beginning of your life till its end, it's a simulated event in a world room. It's like the great existential return is how existence is a simulation, and this simulation returns to its original place. For me, life is not about success or failure in any humanizable context. It's simply about, okay, if I am being a simulated existential entity, how am I being simulated? My biological body is a simulation of cells. My biological body didn't exist at some point, and then it existed, and then my consciousness activated in it. It's very strange that when I go back to my earliest memory, it's void. That means we know very well the human simulation, its limits, because the species has dared to explore, and we've discovered the limits of our species. It has given us a greater perspective on reality. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that many people maybe are never consider. But if you look at the average person, I have a feeling, I'm saying this based on that. I'm not saying it based on absolute accuracy. I'm just saying it appears to me, how do I say it? It's like wondering about where life's meaning comes from, and wondering about what life means when you were asleep. For me, it's like, just like how a person logs into a multiplayer online game. I'm trying to explain to you how we're being simulated. Our biology is simulated, everything is simulated, but as it's been simulated and suddenly been made aware of, as consciousness has interacted with existential content, with existential reality, with an existential reality, it has soon realized that it is inputting the meaning. And the thing I wanted to right now tell you was that most people think like concepts, like they're a concept, they're treating themselves as nouns. But when you, as a being, and I don't know how easily I'm somehow explaining this right now. It's like I'm asking the question, why am I being simulated every day? That means like I've had 12,000 days on this planet. You know what that means? 12,000 new days. Through all these years of my life until now, whatever being I am now, to me, it is very apparent that the relationship a human being has with reality is all about where the awareness of the being is. And so when it comes to the meaning of life, it's kind of like treating yourself like a candle in a dark room and wondering about what are the contents of my mind that are illuminated by my simple attention to the moment. You see, humanity has this pattern of fearing what it doesn't understand. But when it comes to fearing yourself that you don't understand, to truly begin to understand oneself, one has to access a state of view where one can not identify with form and still be able to see it. Aristotle had this saying, he would say it's the sign of an educated mind to entertain an ideal without accepting it. But all that it means is that you're primarily identifying with awareness. So I'm trying to explain to you that yes, biologically you're simulated, existentially you're simulated, chemically you're being simulated right now, atomically you're being simulated, you know. The world is being simulated inside this one physical world where we're all being physical beings. The meaning we give to physical reality is self-simulated. And there's organizational ideological systems simulated everywhere. And what the human being is proof that we're not just a physical animal, because our behavior and communication is not physical. So when you have a physical entity doing something that is as if a response to an access of information that surpasses just physical limited boundary, that means it's kind of like reality can be said to be like imagination that you didn't imagine, you know. That means I can imagine this car I'm in flying, but it's not going to fly. But I can imagine, and how come I could imagine it? So it's suggesting that we have an ability as beings with our mind to consider the significance of what does the future really mean? What is the point that we're inside a system and there's a system admin? I think that's of concern. Let me tell you what every kid in the educational system that has been kicked out of a classroom has realized. That it was just one room. There's many. Right now, I'm trying to explain honestly how we're being simulated as beings. And I'm trying to tell you anything that has a start and an end it can be considered to be of simulated. Okay? So right now my lectures simulated everything similar. Now the question is, the awareness to the simulation doesn't seem to be simulated because it doesn't have attributes that are simulated. And guys, the whole point of it is we're just 8 billion beings in one place. Everybody's treating themselves like their own special noun, but the whole world is a verb. This whole time, every ideological system that has crossed your mind, that has traveled through your vision, it is an awareness to form. There's like, that means there's such deeper ways to explain reality. That the inspiration of anybody who was met with the sentence "that's too deep" suddenly began to understand that's also the proof of fear. That means how brave are we as beings, regardless of, you know, class and creed. How brave are we to truly wonder about what does this dunya, this world, mean? What does it mean that human beings what does it mean that human beings are in an unknown event, suddenly conscious of only a limited range of it that they can control? What is even the point of control? That means if somebody could stop chaos and order from fighting for one moment and be like, hey guys, what's the point of the fight? It would come to the realization that reality can be re-simulated. I think the healthiest thing that can happen on planet Earth that we all realize we're simulations. And what it means to be a self means that you have access to a private simulation, private awareness to how reality is, that nobody knows really the real you. Do you know? And you know, when I was young, I was so naive in thinking I could understand people. To me, it's as if people are like, it's as if my opinionlessness about people is to some degree as if like it could be simulated in any way. That means when I listen to somebody else talk, I'm like, okay, that the next words that this person can say can be another cinematic event in my mind. And at some point you start becoming responsible for your attention as if you've suddenly found this green lightsaber filled with planetary force. Ladies and gentlemen, being honest is the privilege of a lifetime. And if we are truly honest about what our species is right now, it is like a bunch of organisms suddenly noticed everything separately and began correlating so many simulations of interconnected meaning between them that at some point we're like, we don't know if this is nature's artwork or our artwork or God's work. Do you know what I mean? For me, the concern is always to be in the presence of greater values. I think when I understood that the human being is this entity that requires higher ideals, and if it is in some sense made devoid of its future too long, it will stop valuing what it has carried. You see, every being right now is not just carrying atoms which constitute them as you're not just your physical existence. You are this awareness emerging seemingly spherically from your physical awareness. And it's like you're like a candle in a dark room, a certain proximity, a candela of awareness you have, your own candela of awareness. And once you understand that you're a limited being, you become like at some point, I think this is true, the most revolutionary thing that can happen on planet Earth, when people can become fascinated by what they don't know and unite over that, over being fascinated by looping what they just know. For me, it's constantly, you don't understand. It's as if like, yeah, advanced civilization, that's the greatest strategy externally in front of my eyes, but behind my eyes, I am like, okay, first, am I aware of the system admin? Yes. As far as the ego is capable, it acknowledges the original. But it still is honest and acknowledges that it is a simulated being. And being fascinated by what you don't know is an advanced next step for those who are just like, in some sense, fascinated by what they know and how they can reposition it. So I'm pretty much saying we open our eyes as this human perception to this known and unknown, to this unknown event, and we see our species as known it in a certain way, and this is called civilization 1.0, I term it. I don't know. When I realize what separates humans from like other creatures on this planet is that we have an awareness to our awareness. We are aware that we are aware. And that gives us an ability to separate from the form that we are and correlate it to any other form simulated. I think to treat ourselves as a simulation is, again, smartest thing we can do as beings. Everything is simulated in regards to, like, imagine this. It's like, imagine like concentric. Okay, imagine like this. There's space, you need space, and then you put something in the space. Okay, like this is basic. Right now, I'm saying the space is human awareness, the awareness to how your body has changed throughout the years, how the thoughts have come and gone, and who are you really. And now you're beginning to realize why they're saying you're a soul of who can make choices. It's like the soul to me always has felt like a pilot. I have from the beginning of the day, even it's like I'm logging into this video game, Exist 3D Elemental, instead of made of pixels, made of the periodic table video game. And as I live in the specific planetary conditions, the specific existential conditions of my planet and my positioning, all I can do is to be like, okay, why am I being in awareness to a room, to a world room? Why is the attention present at all? And I begin to realize why has your consciousness traveled at all in this realm? I think this is a mighty question. And for me, I was like, yo, man, is life a work of art that I need to just extract my own meaning or give it meaning? Or is it something that the higher ideal implies, hey, man, life is not about like acting like king all the time or acting like peasant all the time. It is about the realization that we are in that moment in history where the choices this current civilization has made due to its technological progress and active dependence of biological beings to a technological state. It's like history is like a sine wave that's constantly, the wave is getting bigger. Until at some point it cannot get bigger because there is no meaning to how to get bigger. You don't understand. The human mind, I don't want to say it's going to be obsolete in 1,000 years, but I would say to be a biological human being is a historic thing. In the same way we're like, yo, in the same way, in the same way, evolutionary biologists are like, yo, man, our ancestors were fish. Everybody relax. Our evolutionary ancestors were the emergence of life from, the meaningless chaos of phenomenology. I'm trying to say that as a conscious soul in this world room, you're aware of reality, and I'm trying to tell you that in your processing, let's say everybody wanted to become super smart. If you wanted to wonder about what a civilization of super smart people would look like, it would pretty much be people who would just identify with infinite options. And once they identify with infinite options, they eventually have to realize physical life requires you to at least select one and act upon. But the point is, you don't know which if they gave you an infinite multiple choice, you don't know what to choose out of infinite options. Okay? So that's where the mind actually experiences its powerlessness. Any problem in this life that I couldn't solve, is, I don't want to say it's taunting me, but it's in some sense, I wonder why is there so much uncharted territory, and why am I in some sort of game, existential game, where I'm like, yo, the species is transitioning based on its current decisions. It's moving towards becoming a superhuman organism, one superhuman organism. That means it's not like, how can I say it? It could be that the notion of a self tied to the notion of the soul. I think the best sort of, I don't know, a geometry that comes to my mind is how they say God is the light of lights, the soul is the shadow of God, the spirit is the shadow of the soul. And for example, I'm a soul right now giving spirit to these words, animating in the presence of reality. The title is Are We Creating Our Way Back to the Creator? I'm trying to explain I guess in a deeper way, I'll explain it like as a model where, I don't know, I'm not saying this is the best way or the worst way, I'm just saying this is the way I see it. Yeah, I'll start from here. 8 billion human organisms in a world roam. Behind their eyes, they're all an awareness to their own personal private value system. In front of their eyes, they're a physical, biological, existential being, biological organism that can activate and animate intelligently. And when human beings are confronted with the question, what is the true source of intelligence? I would say it is to honestly discover your limits. All right, let's try this song. What can I say? There's a system admin beyond the world. The system admin has created moderators who are simulated beings that have authority over this existential simulation. But God has the ultimate authority. And human beings are users, they're players in the game. And in some sense, the world is too big and life is intentionally too deep. In other words, God has designed the human existence, the human position in such a way that when you go try to find the edge of the world, you can't fit the edge of the world in front of your eyes, you can't. And when you go to find the edge of the world behind your eyes, it's as if it doesn't exist. It's not there. It's that you can't find it. So you're confronted with an edgeless unknown in front of your eyes and an edgeless unknown behind your eyes, and at the same time a completed moment of awareness to this being, to your own being. And now I am saying, hey, another member of the human species just like me. It's like we're bees without their beehive, we're ants without their anthill. And we are in some sense in a disorganized collective era of human experience. And to truly reach an advanced era of human organization, it doesn't mean it's controlled. It doesn't mean one ideological system is ruling it. It means that human beings were like, there's no way we can all agree on our, because everybody has a different DNA and every person has a different perception of reality. So I'm saying it's like there's no way everybody can agree on everything. Everybody has different values and it's specifically there, as if everybody has a different code. Just like products in a store have barcode, every human being has their own unique code. Guys, no, I'm just someone who speaks fast. So in the chat section, somebody says, "Can I ask you something? Are you an AI?" Um, no, I'm not an AI, man. You can't, and that's a good existential question. No. But if you ask me if the human species is artificially intelligent, I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. After the Industrial Revolution, something happened that the human mind began evolving faster than the body. You know? There you go, guys. It's just the video's off and I'm sitting in my car just trying to give this lecture here. What can I really say? I mean, I'm saying God is the creator, okay? Man is the created. Now, the creation of God is in a situation where it is confronted with the duality of the simulated and the duality of the original. And once you realize you're a simulation, right, you're going to have a completely different value system on reality. When I say you're a simulation, it doesn't mean you don't exist. Keep that in mind. It means we are temporarily in a position where we're identifying as a self. Guys, honestly, whoever wrote that in the chat section, that's kind of like compliment. Okay, anyways. They're like, this AI is coughing so realistically like a human. Yo, I should ask the viewers, are you AI? Anyways, guys, where am I going with this, I guess? I'm making the point that theologically this is the geometry, that something original simulated something, and this simulation returns back to the original. Everything in creation returns back to the creator state. To me, life is so specifically geometrically designed and things account for themselves that it's kind of like, yo, this is too designed. Like, this world is too designed. So, and usually when you look at design, okay, for conscious human beings, design also has purpose. Somebody could be like, yo, man, I just drew some random lines. I'm like, no, you had the purpose of drawing random lines. It's like a purpose-oriented value. Let me see if I can take this further. I've established that the great existential return is how anything that in some sense has specific design, it is in some sense created. In the same way someone creates artwork, in the same way somebody, let's say, creates some sort of artwork, and sorry guys, I just for a moment, just the depth of something was like taking my attention. I don't know, I'm saying the users in this existential simulation, the greatest thing that a simulated being can do is to wonder about how it's being simulated. When it wonders about how even the concept of a simulation can exist, there has to be an original force. And the system admin, it is the original force, and we are in a simulated realm. Now, the realm is so simulated in such a specific way that we have to, in some sense, ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves that, okay, why is the geometry exactly like this now? Why does my perception on reality include such existential geometry, right? And when you wonder about that, you begin to understand it's like, okay, it's an intelligent system, and the test is, with all the awareness you have, how do you function as a being before you leave this world room? We're all here for some time, and then we, you know, It's like you've entered a world room and you leave this world room. Now, when I say, are we creating our way back to the Creator, I'm asking that, okay, how is this human being, how should a simulated being function in a changing world? That's pretty much what we're saying. And I think the power of a simulated being, the power of a simulated being is that it still has a value to uncover. Like if you were God right now, there would be nothing needed. But right now, you're like this awareness, this original awareness within this simulated circumstance, and you're like, okay, what's the best thing we can do? Let's say you classified that, all right, one level of reality is, all right, what is the most advanced self? The next level of reality is, what is the most advanced expression of a species? Third level is, what is the most advanced relationship with the world? And four is, what is the most advanced relationship with the system admin? So once you get to this point, you begin to understand the system admin is technically your relationship with, as a sort of reverence for the incomprehensible, a reverence for the unknown. That means for someone who is Muslim, God has no shape. God is not a person. No human attribute, no created phenomena can equate the creator. The original, the simulated cannot equal the original. But this is the weird thing where it's like the simulated is trying to simulate again within the simulation a relationship with the original being. God is the original being. It's the origin of being. Alright guys, let me change this whale music. Okay. We're wondering about the greatest advancement of human vision within a simulation. And we come to the conclusion that the greatest value, the highest ideal is that which is beyond the world room. So we're still in the world room, meaning that we have to, in some sense, complete our duty or we have to, it's like we still have to play the game of life, specifically in these scenarios, for a reason. There is a reason we have opened our eyes as the souls who have an ability to sculpt history. To rise beyond the ignorance of a species that scattered itself, to look in the mirror and discover your role in the human legacy, to realize the greatest power for a human being is understanding. And to understand reality means to, in some sense, try to, it's like a simulated being try to, in the same way a AI robot may try to want to understand how it is to be a human being. It's like human beings in their own way religiously, they are the simulations of their creator being tested for their return. That means we're all in a divine surveillance state. And a simulated testing zone. And how we in some sense activate as being here is very important. And we have to be conscious of the system admin. Islam, for me at least, is an ideological system that is so pure. What the prophets did was so incredible. What Prophet Abraham started, Prophet Muhammad, I believe, finished. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him. Because they all pointed to that which is beyond the conceptual domain of man. By the nature of considering reality to be simulated, it means we have changed the texture of the world room to wonder about if there's if there's a bigger world out there, if there's something way more significant happening here that the human being, if it was conscious of, in some sense, there, it's like, trust me, genius is when your mind grows wings to, in some sense, fly into the future and return. It's like once you wonder about, let's say, the word greatness, and you put the word advanced in front of it, advanced greatness. The most advanced greatness is the top of the hierarchy of values. It is the ultimate, the original. So every person, religious person, has a relationship with the original power. Anyways, everything seems to be, anything that's simulated is returning to the original state. The original state of being, for me, is a God that its majesty is so superior. In the same way a politician can give a speech and a group of ants can never understand it, we must fathom that when we say God is the higher power, it means the original is beyond any simulated authority. So it means that the value system extends beyond your individualism, beyond your speciesism. It goes to a point of like, why is the world here? And we realize our ability to be able to be fascinated by how our eyes have entered a scenario, how anything exists at all, and how beautiful it is to just be in a situation, to be in a reality where there's known and unknown variables, and they're like, be logical, and you try to be logical, then you see, yo man, there's no point of being logical when new variables are arising all the time. That means there's so many unknown variables going on that it's as if like you wanted to order pizza for 4 people, and then while you were ordering, 4 other people came, and then the logic of the situation changed. So in some sense, what I'm trying to say is like reality is being self-simulated to the individual based on how they organize the known variables of their perception, yet the unknown variables remain. And yet when we wonder about the problems of the species, the problems of our species is its ability to be conscious of its actual expression. That means if somebody's, how do I say it, like the species needs to align to a more aware of what it's exactly doing, advanced organizational structure. I don't know, it's kind of like, yo man, what happens when you care for your species? You care for, and technically you're caring for the greatest creation of the system admin according to theology. What else can I say here? So, are we creating our way back to the Creator? Are we giving meaning to life to try to reconnect with the value that is beyond our limitations? I think at some point the person has to be like, the sin Adam and Eve's sin was that they listened to a simulated entity, rather than remembering the original authority. Honestly, when I look at this world, there's 100% a divine management of it going on. Reality is too unique, too strangely random. That means it's like, what is even randomity in reality? It's as if they asked ordered beings, yo man, why don't you like the chaos? And they're like, we can't even comprehend it. Guys, pretty much just concentrate and zoom in on the idea of what is the most advanced self, what is the most advanced species, expression of the species, and what is the most advanced relationship with the world and reality. And finally, at some point in life, you're going to realize what's beyond you, and if what's beyond you is intelligent, what is the relationship protocol? And I'll tell you, you're going to realize after your mind can't cross the river of infinity. Once you realize that, you discover the limitations of your simulated meaning structure, and then at some point you have to ask yourself, how long do I continue in this internally subjective simulated meaning structure? And you reach a point where you have to kind of eject out of that, like you got out of that Iron Man suit and you got into a Tony Stark, got into another one. And people were like, Tony, why don't you make an army of advanced AI Iron Mans to endlessly punch Thanos? And Iron Man's like, buddy, you trying to mess up my, the spotlight? I don't know, guys. To be honest, what the title is honestly suggesting is that something beyond us created us. And now we're trying to create that for ourselves and realizing we can't. And then this is where the ego has to be like, all right, I understand my limitations, and then it kind of goes into like pause or transparent mode, and you become a human being that realizes that you can have a direct non-ideological relationship with your values, not just as emotions, but as what I term as moments of pure sight. I think we are not we are creating our way back to the creator in the way that we realize we're in a simulated testing zone, like we're in an exam hall, okay? And free will is like your ability to move the pen and write answers on the paper. And so as we're being writing the answers, we're under also surveillance. So we have to consider that just because a person has a certain value to their own self doesn't mean all the different types of intelligence that can perceive them can't value them differently. They are. There's so many ways to extract value from any sort of form that if somebody asks me, hey man, what is it like to be you? I'll be like, it's like being a free will that could choose out of endless values. What do you mean? Every one of us is like that. Anyways, guys, I think I'm gonna end the talk here actually. And it all goes back to the system admin. The whole point of Islam is directly go to the system admin. Do not ask for non-simulated advice from simulated beings. And wonder about what does it mean to, in some sense, that like theologically Adam and Eve were in an original, like let's say heaven, meaning equating into an original state, and then they listened to a simulation and their descendants were all like, you know, being tested in a simulated world by the creator and then being judged, you know. It's very fascinating because it means that everything you're doing is being logged. It's a conscious thought that you even identify with, but it's not being logged by you or any sort of technological state. It's being logged by a divine surveillance state, I call it. That means sometimes I've wondered what is looking at me through the eyes of every other intelligent entity I've seen. And once I stop giving them value, like what is their value? And the value of attention itself even. So what I'm saying is like it's the question about like how do we conduct ourselves as a species to the greatest outcomes. The greatest ideals seem to be values beyond limited structures. Human civilization, for example, is happening right now in a limited setting. So it's kind of like 8 billion human beings now here's the thing. How can a simulated entity know that it's simulated? And I think it's because there's something original within it. Now in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the soul is the secret of God, and the soul is also the of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the command of God. The soul is the command of God. Now, God is unfathomable to you, and the soul, by the nature of being commanded that it's a secret, it is in some sense unknowable. So that's what I meant earlier when your inner realms are unknown. You know, the edge of your inner realms is an unknown infinity. So I'm saying at some point you're going to realize, okay, just like a video game where there's some parts of the map you can't walk in, you as a conscious organism right now have access to a certain kind of perception, right? And now the whole point of life is about all these beings that are valuing themselves uniquely in their own way. How do they all find a sort of collective visionary purpose, or what common value, shared value do all of them have that we can rebuild an advanced civilization from? If somebody says, Mr. Within, at what point, at what era of the advanced civilization were you born in, or not born in, or let's say, what I would say, I experienced humanity shifting, like as if stepping into like a time machine. I saw humanity shift from children. Like when I was a kid, I would climb trees. Nowadays, some parks, it's illegal to climb trees. Do you know what I'm saying? And everything is being pushed towards technological innovation, having greater value in the economy, and humanity's technology accelerating faster than its ethics can even globally collaborate on it. You know, for me, there's nothing better than moments where I look at something and I call it moments of pure sight, where my attention to reality asks itself, how is it being here? And then I kind of recalibrate in all the dimensions that my consciousness is active in the moment. And then I wonder about, okay, what is the value of consciousness? I realize, like before I get tired and go to sleep, it's like it's simulated value, it's conscious existential time. And so I ask myself, what is the greatest strategic decision in an unknown changing world within a civilization that specifically has lived in a certain way? Civilization 1.0, for me, I have a graceful attitude to the past, as if that's like they didn't know better, but they somehow pulled through. When I wonder about the future generations, it's all about how do we activate it. It's like, even if you had a, let's say, ego, you'd be like, yo man, I want to be the most advanced self on earth. Or we'll be like, okay, you can't technically know your most advanced self in an unadvanced world. So you have to advance the world first, and when in an advanced world, wonder about your advanced self. Well, what does it mean to advance the world? To advance everybody's world. That means right now we're reaching that point where I think human beings are climbing this mountain, where the bottom of the mountain is like different nationalism, and at the top of the mountain it's speciesism. We are walking into a transnational era where we have to unite over how we're all human beings. And what does it truly mean to be a human being? And what should the simulated do in the presence of the original? And why are we aware that we have choice? It's incredible reality once you become fascinated by its true presence. Anyways, thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. A'udhu billah shaitan rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and unnecessary ignorance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. It's like before I was Muslim, every atom, cell, particle in existence was like Muslim. It's the whole point of the simulated being aware of the original memory of being created. There's something original within us that is being tested to see if it treats the simulation as truth or that which is beyond it, and what does it truly mean to have a relationship with a higher power, where the higher power has no shaped attributes. And it's technically done through reverence. That means you reach a point where you realize the limitations of your being, and you realize all these limitations are because of a self that's trying to be something behind the scenes. And once that self realizes the incompleteness of its simulated journey, it, in some sense, how do I say it? You come in it, the word Islam means submission, but it means the submission of the ego that's acting like the higher power to the recognition that just like a politician can look at ants, we could be ants. That a higher power is watching humanity, and in some sense, it's important to our conduct. And why are we conscious? Like, why evolution could have just been like, for me, evolution technically doesn't make sense. Let me tell you why. Because you're telling me the greatest evolutionary strategy was for this being to become conscious that it's suffering. Like, that means before it was unconsciously suffering, now it's consciously suffering, and that's the best strategy. There's something much, much deeper going on. Anyways, Rabbi Fairly, my Lord, forgive me. My Lord, forgive me for, my Lord, forgive my species for all the sins it is conscious and unconscious of. May God guide us to the direct path. For me, it's like, when I say simulation, guys, it's just a matter of context. Anything in life you can kind of internally in your inner realms align your distance with and be comfortable. The nature of reality is about the realization of what is the value of us noticing that we're here, what is the greatest thing that can happen, what is the global hierarchical structure, and if in the future, upcoming future, in the next 100 years, intense stuff begins to happen, how would we suddenly realize that everybody, like, tell me this, it's kind of like there's geniuses in every nation helping like advance that nation. But imagine there were all those geniuses that were like interconnected, and they were all helping build an advanced species, like an advanced human civilization. For me, the future is very fascinating, because sometimes I even feel to be a biological being that with ignorance and using AI on a laptop is like a very historic, because in the far future, you don't know how super organism like consciousness will become, and how far this biological body is required, and what's going to technically happen here. But for me, there is a reason we all have an ability to wonder about the future. And it's like, just like if I ask you, remember something, what you ate for lunch yesterday, you can remember it, you can visually, right? Even though that moment doesn't exist anymore, yet your mind can show you that moment. Now, if I tell you, imagine what like 10 years, or not 10 years, 100 years in the future is going to look like, your mind can give it an attempt. I'm just trying to make the point that that attempt is being done in a space where consciousness that has had access to a pattern can wonder about different patterns, as if it is an awareness beyond just the design of the intelligence. Sometimes it's I'm telling you, it's kind of like, right now, if you ask me who's giving this talk, I'll be like, it's like an awareness that's being the whole moment. And within that awareness, my attention is starting biologically from the body, from my eyes, and I'm physically sitting in this car with my laptop here. And at the same time, anytime I want to do something, it's like in my inner realms, it's like I've done it faster. And the body follows ahead of the mind. It's just, anyways, guys, the situation of human existence is so fascinating that to wonder about this relationship of the nature of a simulated reality, or what does it really mean to be real, and what does it mean to be human, actually, and what new value system can we in some sense perceive to the human system. That means in the same time that there is lack, there's abundance. In reality is one of emerging design that is being directed by human beings that have their own sort of value extractions from reality. Anyways, thank you for listening. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.